How's it going, everyone? I'm Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel. So today, we're talking about The Bouncer. I've been wanting to discuss this game for such a long time, and thanks to one awesome fan who actually sent this to me, you guys are finally going to get this review. They asked to remain anonymous, but I didn't want to go without giving them a special shout out. Really appreciate it that I finally get to talk about this game because of you. So without further ado, let's just dive into The Bouncer and actually see if it's any good.
The Bouncer.
The Bouncer is a PlayStation 2 action game developed by Square Enix in 2000, during the time when they were originally known as Squaresoft. Japan released the game first in December in 2000, while North America and Europe got it a few months later in 2001. What's special about The Bouncer is that it's the first PlayStation 2 game that was published by Square, and also one of the early games that Tetsuya Nomura did the character designs for, prior to his work on the Kingdom Hearts games. You can see a lot of parallels between the main character Sion from The Bouncer and Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Don't believe me? Just take a look. You can almost mistake Sion for being Sora's big brother. Don't they look similar? Fun fact, Pence from Kingdom Hearts 2 is wearing a shirt that references Dog Street from The Bouncer. Pretty wild, huh? Anyway, the story of The Bouncer is very weak, and tries to be bigger than what it actually is. In the city of Edge, 3 bouncers work at a bar called Fate with their young friend Dominique. Their names are Sion, Volt, and Co. While everything seems like a chill day at first, a team of Special Forces agents break into the bar and kidnap Dominique. Burning with rage and the desire to save his friend, Sion and the other 2 bouncers storm off to Mikado HQ in hopes of doing a rescue. But what they find there will bring back forgotten memories and shocking revelations that will turn Sion's life upside down. So right from the jump, The Bouncer reminds me of another game I reviewed on this channel called The Quiet Man. If you've never played that game before, go check out my review, which will be linked up here somewhere, because a lot of the story beats and characters and some other elements of that game remind me of what's going on in The Bouncer. Pretty much, I'm pretty sure like somebody that made The Quiet Man was a fan of The Bouncer in some way. And because of that, I have to say that the story in The Bouncer is super shallow. Just some of the story beats that happen, some of the different plot points, and the big twist that happens comes out of nowhere, but everything about it is just so like meh, it's so mediocre. It's not super deep, like it's trying to be deep like other Square Enix or Squaresoft games of the time, but in its execution it fails miserably. It's just that the characters look cool, they kind of try to sound cool, but they're not really much more beyond that. They're very surface level shallow. So besides that, let's get into the meat of everything, and that's the gameplay, because a lot of people seem to remember The Bouncer for its visuals and its just overall style, but not a lot of people talk about the gameplay with this game, and that might be for very good reason. Unfortunately, while I could forgive parts of The Bouncer and its narrative, the game really falls apart when you look into the beat-em-up style gameplay. I like action games that you could take on multiple enemies and feel like a boss, but this is early PlayStation 2 and things are really showing their age here. The Bouncer has you alternating control between Sion, Volt, and Co. as events of the story unfold. They call this the active character system, but it's not really anything special other than picking a character and having the other 2 controlled by the CPU. You get to choose who you play as every time a battle comes up, and some events in the story might be a little bit different. This variation, however, is very meager and doesn't really influence the outcome of the overall story, with a few minor exceptions for certain events. The fighting is where things are super rough. Combat is bland and incredibly stiff with every character, and the controls are straight up terrible. Trying to do a basic combo is annoying since you can't just hit the face buttons in a sequence. You either have to press them with varying pressure or hold another button in direction to do so. Executing special moves feels like garbage and leaves you open to attack most of the time, unless you can figure out which moves to spam constantly. It's needlessly complicated and incredibly frustrating to deal with. And then finally, there's the camera. My god, this camera is absolute trash. It's that early PlayStation 2 style camera where you have no control over it and have to struggle when you can't see the action that's going on. Objects can block your view, enemies can attack you suddenly from off screen, and you can get stuck in these awkward camera angles when moving around. Like I said, it's annoying as hell.
What do you want with Dominique?
It's not over yet. I'll teach you a thing or two about a woman's wrath the next time we meet.
Okay, one of the worst aspects of this game is the loading screens, because my god, there are so many loading screens in this game. I understand that this is early PlayStation 2, but come on now, like, you have loading screens in between, like, little cuts between dialogue, between characters, and even then, like, there's even more loading screens right before you get into battle. There's so many loading screens. You go through a doorway to the next section, you get another loading screen. You get over to another section where there's more enemies, you hit another loading screen. I swear to God, I was that close to rage quitting this game because there were so many loading screens. I would have been done if there was a loading screen for a loading screen. Like, I would have just flipped the table and just walked off. Like, it was that annoying. But by far, one of the worst aspects about the fighting in particular, besides everything else that I mentioned, is that when you're teaming up with other characters that are controlled by the AI, if you don't get the final hit on an enemy, you won't get the experience for it. So, in the couple times throughout most of the story, I was fighting groups of enemies, and some of my AI partners were doing their fighting stuff, they were dealing damage and things like that, so I would try to see if I could go get the final hit, or at least, try to clear out the area with other enemies in different locations, and all of a sudden, I would get, like, very meager amounts of experience, and I just couldn't figure out why, until I finally got into a fight where I saw the computer get the final hit, and it didn't even give me any of the experience from that enemy, let alone any of the bonus experience from the fight itself. That to me is just poor game design. I feel like you should get all the experience for all the enemies defeated, especially if you're in a party with other characters that are being controlled by the CPU. It just, again, it makes it harder on the player, and it makes it more annoying for them much later on when you can't power up your moves, you can't power up your characters, you can't unlock extra special moves, things like that you really need experience for, and for whatever reason, the game just denies you that. It's so stupid to me. So finally, let's talk about some of the other game modes that are included in the Bouncer, because there's more stuff than just the story mode. However, once again, a lot of people just don't talk about this stuff, like, at all. Luckily, there are some extra things you can unlock by going through the trouble of finishing the game. However, these extras are tedious to get and very meager with their payoff. Completing the game a few times will unlock a bunch of characters for the multiplayer versus battle and survival modes. Yeah, this game has local multiplayer that kind of reminds me a little bit of the Power Stone games from Capcom. Up to 4 players can play the versus battle mode in an arena based on any one of the stages from the story. Unless you complete the story mode at least once beforehand though, you're not going to have many characters to play with. But the worst part of this? Every other character you unlock isn't all that different from the main cast. You get to play as the bosses you encounter in the story, but their movements and playstyles are awkward and just as stiff as Sion, Volt, and Co. It also doesn't help that the matches are super short, even when you bump up the number of rounds to win. Survival is the other game mode, and it's exactly what you think. You fight enemies in stages until your health runs out, nothing more or less. I played this maybe a few times just to see it, and I got bored very quickly. You get one bonus outfit for Sion by completing all the stages at least once, but real talk, this isn't all that worth it. I feel like once you play through the story mode once or twice, you're pretty much done with this game.
Ready, fight! Game over.
I should also mention that the Bouncer is a very short game. You could complete this in under an hour, and depending if you watch all the cutscenes or skip them and how you power up certain characters, you could finish the Bouncer in like 30 to 45 minutes. It's really that short. One other thing I found that was a little bit annoying was some of the unlockable characters where you have to do things a certain way in the story mode in order to get them. Personally, for me, I would rather have it that if you complete the story with all 3 main characters, you get everybody to use in multiplayer, but some of these characters either require you to go back to specific points in the story to change up a certain decision, and like you just have to get to that point of the story and just do things differently in order to get them unlocked in multiplayer, and I found that just to be a little bit too tedious and a little bit too time consuming. It doesn't really need to be like that, and to be honest with you, some of the characters aren't really worth the trouble. So after looking over everything, can I recommend that you guys check out The Bouncer on PlayStation 2? If I'm being totally honest, I really can't recommend this game. I don't think that it's aged all that well. I don't think that it's very good in a lot of aspects, even though I like the visual style and I think that it's kind of cool to see that early PlayStation 2 era Squaresoft game that really kind of, was the genesis or the prototype for better games that we got later on in the lifespan. If you're still curious about The Bouncer, or if you're just a Squaresoft or Square Enix fan and want to check out their entire catalog of games throughout the ages, then go ahead and check out The Bouncer. But if you just want another good game from the Square Enix library, you could totally skip over this one and be totally fine.
Game over.
And there you go, everyone. Those are my overall thoughts about the Bouncer on PlayStation 2. Again, big shoutouts to the fan who wanted to remain anonymous for sending this over to me to do this video for you guys. You have to really thank them. Show them some love in the comments if you can, but I was hyped up to talk about this game. I haven't played this in so long, and it's like, you see it, and people talk about it, like, lightly, but looking back over this game, it's just, we really gave a lot of excuses and really settled a lot in the early days of the PlayStation 2, man, because there's just some things about this game that's just kind of really bad, like, super bad. But regardless, though, that's just my opinion about the Bouncer. Let me know what you guys think about this game down below in the comment section. Tell me some of your favorite Square Enix or Squaresoft games from back in the day. What is it about the Bouncer that you might like, or some of your favorite characters? Or if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan and this kind of got you curious to go check out this game, being a fan of Tetsuya Nomura, talk to me about that stuff down below in the comments section. Hey there everyone, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate all of your support as always. On the side here I have some game reviews and other cool videos you might like to watch. Make sure you leave me a comment down below and subscribe to the channel too. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to be in the know when I post up new videos for you to check out. I'll talk to you all again real soon. Peace out and stay epic everybody.